right, guys, how's it going? Just wanted to welcome you guys to the first episode of the Angry Advocate podcast. My name is Ed. I am the guitar player for Death's Hand, and also I run Advocate Media.
And hey guys, I'm Ashley. I run Angry Ginger Photography.
And yeah, so the first episode today, um, we kind of wanted to go over the ideas that we had to start this podcast. Um, and we really wanted to kind of create a space where we could bring our own thoughts and our own creativity with both of us obviously work in media, and then I play in a band, and we kind of just wanted to make a podcast that was about the local music scene in New England, and photography, video, and just the music in general, and just kind of share our passions all together in one space. And we both felt like this was kind of um, the space to do that. So for me, um, being in the band Death's Hand, I really wanted to talk to other bands that we've had experiences with, and you know bring that to the table in the podcast. So um, yeah, we wanted to take this first episode to kind of talk about some of that stuff and share our ideas behind it. So Ashley, if you want to kind of explain your thoughts of this as well.
Absolutely. Agreeing with a lot of what Ed said, but going further on the New England local scene is just so vast, and there's just so much going on. There's new bands and photographers and everything popping up every single day. And what better way to be able to talk about it, with our interests, and then being able to get on different photographers and musicians that are all part of the scene to be able to bring awareness to bands that we enjoy, and then going even further, getting out like bands we don't know about, but just making like that space where we can all just really grow further and everything.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like both of us agree, like i- you know post COVID, I guess you could say, just the music scene and photography and like video, there's just so much out there right now. And it's a really cool atmosphere to be in. Um and it's just cool to be creative. I mean, I just started taking, photos and doing video, and I was very intrigued with seeing, Ian, do a lot of his work, seeing Maddie and you do a lot of your work. I mean, that was kind of like an influence for me to kind of like dive into that world, and just to see so many really like young talented people, um
No,
you know
exactly.
yeah.
Ian has been someone I've looked up to for a really long time. I just got to work with him, last weekend, but prior to last weekend, he is someone that doesn't matter how nice he was, I never went up to him in person because he's just that good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
being able
Yeah.
to, like, work with him and see, like, it on that aspect, so, like, we all feel that way, and it's crazy, like, as soon as you have the conversation and come together, like, I have no idea why I didn't say just hello to him, but, like, we can all just really grow together, and this is, like, what I feel perfect opportunity to be able to do that for both of us of what we have going on and just bringing on different people so that we can learn what they have going on.
Yeah, for sure. And like Ian's one of those people that like, whether you're working with him as a band, or I mean, obviously like you said you were with him whatever last weekend, like just being around him as like a fellow like media person, it can be a little intimidating. Working with him was super easy. Like
Yeah, exactly.
I never felt intimidated working with him when when he shot Death's Hand's first music video. So our first experience shooting a music video was with him, which was just like mind blowing. Um, and just seeing his work was really cool. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see how you saying like being in that, and you know you're not in a band, so you weren't working with him, but you were working.
In the same realm,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
exactly,
yeah,
and
yeah,
up until recently and even still now, like, I don't see myself like, Ian, like, up here, I, like, put myself at such, like, a different
Right.
accord, and even just hearing, like, people, like, saying everything I'm doing, like, it still doesn't hit, like, Ian and I both did Slipknot, but I did the first 3 songs with 13 Photographers. Ian was hired by Slipknot to do it, so,
Right.
like,
Right.
there's a difference.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. But I think the cool thing about that is, and you can tell me a little bit more maybe about your experience with him. Um, and I mean even with Maddie too, uh, what's Maddie's boyfriend's name again?
Brandon.
Brandon. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, I know like he's incredibly talented too. But it's the cool thing about that is like I don't even, it's like hard to even explain. Um, it's cool to kind of like pick their brain on like because that's I mean that's what I did, right? Like I I
Mhm.
I picked Ian's brain, I picked Maddie's brain, I picked your brain, like trying to figure out like how do I do this? Like how do I do this? Like and it's cool to kind of get like perspectives from everyone.
Different
And
aspects, yeah.
yeah, and Ian, the one thing that he told me like when I first shot stuff, I was asking him about editing photos. Um and he I was asking him for, like, criticism, like, I want him to, like, tell me, like, "Am I doing" and all he said
Tell me
was,
what you want.
yeah, I'm like, is this good?" Like, um, but, like, the thing for me, it was, like, I asked him, I'm like, "Yeah, like, I was thinking about doing this," and he's like, "It doesn't matter what I think." He's like, It's your art, so if you like it, it's good." And I'm like, "That's not the answer I want."
It's
'Cause
like
if
it's the perfect answer, but it's not
it's not.
exactly.
Yeah, it's like yes, but no. I need you to like, if it's shit, say it's shit. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
that's the nice Yoda answer, but, like, I
yeah,
want the
exactly.
actual.
Yeah, yeah, but it's cool, and, like, um, I think both the photography world and the music world, I think, you know, you have your bands that are fun to work with, you have your bands that are not fun to work with, it just happens, like, not calling anybody out, but just saying like there's some bands that are easy to work with, some bands that aren't easy to work with, and then there's photographers who are easy to work with and photographers who are not easy to work with, which happens. But I think overall, it's been a really good experience for me, like in both realms. But if I've had a bad experience, I've just at this point, I'm just like I just let it roll off. Like it's just something where it's like I don't care. Like okay, cool. Like you know what I mean? Like so I
It's
don't know if
all
that.
just a learning and growth, really, experience and, like, getting into that mindset of not letting everything per se bother you and such, um, just makes things, like, all the easier, because I've been prior to the last year of photography, like, I was still around the music scene since pre-COVID, but, even so, like, I was around these people, I know these people, so then breaking into, like, something new and stuff and making my name for that while amidst the same, like, things you were saying is not everyone is as welcoming and such, like and
Yeah.
that's why for the longest time, I didn't look at myself like I'm just this small photographer, I wouldn't ever put myself on the same playing field as Maddie or Ian, like, these people that like, Maddie is one of the direct reasons why I'm in photography, like, I
Yeah.
like to think, like, she's, like, what taught me so much of it, and it took a while before I could, like, step up to, like, realize, like, "Oh, no, I can, like, stand on my own, like, with these people," and it's just, like, growing yourself within that.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's kind of the same thing with music too, though. Like when like being in a band and being on stage, right? Like there's a whole part of it where it's like, you know, am I as good as these bands, or like does it even matter if I'm as good as these bands? You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like one thing that I've learned, at least with being on stage, is you just have to do what you wanna do, right? Like, I just have to do what I wanna do. Like, the band has to get on stage and just do what we wanna do. Like, we practice for however long we practice, we get as good as we get. You get on stage and you perform. Some nights are good, some nights are bad, and not that people I mean, maybe some bands do this, I don't know, but, like, not like bands are like, "Well, we played the best and we play" you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there are some people that probably say that, But the one thing that we try to say to ourselves is like, we want to go out and perform and be the best band. Not that we're better than anybody else, but we just want to perform like,
You wanna be your best self. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. You want to put your best self forward, and then hopefully maybe that pushes another band. They're like, man, they sounded really tight. We got to come out and you know what I mean? And so it's like,
Exactly.
it's not to be better. Exactly. It's like if you put your best self forward, hopefully somebody else will put their best self forward, and it's just like a continuous like cycle, you know. So it's
Yeah,
one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I think again, that's part of this whole reason why I wanted to like even talk about this on a podcast, right? Which is it's the same thing. Like it's one of those reasons where it's like there's just so much cool creative stuff going on and enough people supporting each other that it's like, yeah,
right.
I talk to people at shows, but I don't know, I don't get to talk like this to people at shows, you know? So this would be a cool way to kind of encapsulate everything. And yeah, and I mean, I think from the background that you have too, which is more experience in media and photography and stuff like that, like I think it's cool that we're each going to kind of have our own little section that we're like, you're going to know a little bit more about that. I'm going to know a little bit more about bands, and I have a little experience in this, which is kind of cool. So we can also have a conversation about that, you know?
Exactly, and vice versa.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, yeah, I mean, you've been in the music scene enough and around people enough that you kind of know that whole thing. And obviously, we're both from different states too, so that's kind of cool that we're kind of
Yeah,
bringing it together. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think this is a good opportunity for both of us to talk to some cool people, have some cool conversations, um, you know, talk to people in the scene that we already know, and then talk to new people that we don't, you know. Um,
exactly. And
yeah,
these are the conversations, like, we don't have time to have, like, at shows and things. Because
yeah,
I know, like, at shows, I'm stuck in my mindset of just taking the photos, like, if I can have the interaction, awesome, but usually I
yeah,
don't, and usually it's wicked awkward, so this is, like, how to have a normal conversation and be able to get the point across and everything
yeah,
and learn what people have going on.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But yeah. So yeah, I think this is going to be a good opportunity just to kind of do that and grow a little bit, and just whenever I have conversations with people, when it's just like kind of slightly pulling stuff apart and trying to figure out stuff, like you can usually like, oh yeah, this is just like face value, this is what this is, but it's really cool to just like start to pick little things apart here and there and go, oh wow, okay, maybe there's a little bit more to this, and I feel like we're going to be able to do that with bands and other photographers. And I'm sure we'll bring on some media people, some band people. It'll be a good mixture of everything all together. um yeah, it's gonna be fun. Um, so yeah, I know we wanted to kind of go into some questions for each other too. Kind of
Yes,
talk about, um, you know, uh, let people know a little bit more about ourselves, I guess, kind of thing. So we're gonna have a little question section here. We each have a couple questions for each other. So Ashley, I don't know if you want to start.
absolutely, I can get started.
Yeah.
So touching on Death's Hand, what do you guys have going on?
Yeah. um, So, so we just released a Life in Decay EP in August, on August 3rd. Um, Shot a music video for one of the songs on that. I actually shot that music video and edited that music video, so that was a crazy experience. Um, but yeah, that was is a big release for us. It's a really cool, you know, I guess, addition to our first EP that we came out with. We kind of wanted to do something simple, similar, but just kind of like up that production level and up, you know, just one up our last EP, really. You know what I mean? Like, not necessarily that it's better, but we just wanted to put a little bit more effort in to see what we could push and kind of where we could go. So releasing
Absolutely.
that EP was really cool. Um, so that was, I mean, that's a big thing that happened in August. And then we're definitely in the process of writing another EP, hopefully recording later this year, I'm hoping so. And then we're gonna release probably the EP sometime in the springtime. Um, that's kind of our goal. But the cool thing about that is that for this next release, with me having the ability to shoot music videos now,
Mhm.
excuse me, we're probably gonna shoot 2 maybe for this upcoming EP. So we'll do kind of like 2 releases. So we'll do like an initial single with a video, and then wait a couple weeks and do another one. It's something along those lines. Where we haven't. I mean, it's very very new. Um,
But no,
but
still, the fact that, like, you jumped into that music video, like, still
yeah,
got it done while being in the music video, like,
yeah,
nonetheless and everything, like,
yeah,
that's something, like, that's awesome to have under your belt, like,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it was a process, and being the first, literally, like, it's the first thing I've ever released ever, like, in
It's
video,
incredible exactly,
and it
like,
came out really good. I know I can do better. I'm happy with the
but
first,
this is the
like,
jumping off point,
yeah,
like, it's, like,
exactly.
just the beginning, like
Yeah, yeah, it's and it's cool too because, like, I feel like I work way better. I don't wanna say under pressure, but, um I mean, kind of.
chaos coordinator, yeah.
Yeah, it's just I've always been the type of person where it's like if I get pushed into a certain area, or get pushed up against a wall, and I'm like, I'll figure out my way out of it. You know what I mean? Like, not like pressure, and I mean, there is a little bit of pressure, but at the same time, like, I mean, I asked Ian for some, for some tips on doing it, and he was like, "Oh, there's a couple picture profiles. Check this one out." He's like, "As long as you shoot in this, you should be able to color grade it fine." And I was like, "Okay." So, like, did a couple things, and was like, I mean, it looks good. Like, I guess everything's in focus, like,
Doing the
to,
thing,
for
yeah.
certain parts. Like, there are certain parts that were purposely kind of brought out of focus here and there, just to kind of, whatever. Um, but yeah, just to kind of jump into that and do that. And Ian said the same thing too. I sent him the music video, and I wanted his his, his
His actual opinion.
criticism, and he's like, "Yeah, it looks awesome, man." And that's it. And I was like, "Okay,
Like, you
cool."
definitely do think that, but it's like, give me the
Yeah,
nitty-gritty.
I'm like, "Thanks, Ian. I appreciate it, but I want you to tell me it's crap and tell me where I can fix
Tell
it."
me it's
Like,
horrible, tell me what I
yeah,
did
yeah.
wrong.
Well, I'm one of those people that loves constructive criticism. Like, I'm all like, tear it apart, do it. You know what I mean? Like, because then if it's torn apart, then I can go, okay, I can fix this. Okay, I can fix this. Like, and I learn. I love learning. Um, I mean, I'm sure you're the same way with shooting photography. I'm sure it's like
Oh,
anytime you
absolutely.
can, like, take in new
Just new.
information.
Yeah, no, I was at, I did Jeremy Saffer's, seminar back, last November, with my friend Hannah of Fire Rose Studios, and one of the very first questions, this is still when I just had my DSLR camera, and he was just like, "Who has mirrorless? Who has DSLR?" And there was, like, 3 of us that had DSLR versus everyone else having mirrorless, and he, like,
Jesus.
looked me dead in the eyes and was just like, you can only do so much with this camera. You can, like, perfect your craft and everything, but this camera is gonna end up limiting you.
Right.
And I, like, instantly was like, "Oh, okay," but that allowed me to learn so much more as a photographer to, like, be able to produce the same quality pictures as what the not of what the mirrorless are producing, but
Yeah.
being able
Yeah.
to keep up with it so that when I did, like, finally go up to the mirrorless, thank you, Maddie, I was able to now produce, like, the photos, like, I've been waiting for because I had all of the tools and, like, learned everything of the camera, like, from the DSLR, so it just makes it so much easier on the
Yeah.
mirrorless.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the difference between those 2, I mean, it's a great skill to know everything on a DSLR, you know what I mean? But that mirrorless definitely makes a lot of things easier.
Mhm,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, but I think, I mean, that's kind of a good experience though, to be able to, like, yeah, I am working with the older technology like, but at the same
I
time,
got
it's just like,
frustrated with my DSLR, so it's like those, like, little things of just, like, still remembering, like, where you started.
yeah, exactly, and that's really cool. But yeah, yeah, the Desan stuff is going great. It's going well. Um, uh, yeah, I'm hoping we can kind of get all of that stuff situated and push forward. We kind of work at our own pace. So it's one of those things where it's just like we're not gonna rush ourselves, like when we can do it is when we can do it. And if people are like, "Where's new music?" Blah, blah, like it's like it's coming, like it'll be there, like
Yeah, it's not
this
gonna be like yeah.
yeah. And this last EP, like we actually like it was done in like December, January, and we didn't release till August, which was stupid. It was just that was just us like
I don't
slacking.
know, guys, like, yeah.
Yeah, it was just slacking. Like, I was like, "Yeah, we'll release it," and that was it. And I was like,
Hate
"Oh, we should
doing
probably
stuff like
release it. It's August."
that.
Like, it's been almost a year since this has been finished, but yeah, but yeah, it's gonna be good. Everyone's doing really well. We're little bumps in the road here and there for all of us, I think, really, but I think it's one of the glues that's kind of holding us together right now. Just as like people. So Death's Hand won't be going anywhere anytime soon. So we're definitely going to be pushing for that new EP and all of that fun stuff. So should be good. Should be good. Um, I'm going to ask a question now. At least I want to.
Yeah,
um,
sure.
so there are some things that I don't even know about you. So what initially made you get into like the metal and hardcore scene? Because like I know I've seen you at a couple of shows here and there, and just shooting photography. So that's all I really know in depth. So whether it's a band, a person who was like, come to the show, like whatever, but like what was like the
Jumping off
the
point.
spark that kind of like really pushed you in that direction?
Yeah, so I'm originally from New York, Hudson Valley, and that area, growing up, the 2 well, basically my cousins, got me into, like, more of that music, and the local band of my school was Just Surrender, and we had, the chance, and I was still, like, listening to the music, but it was more so, like, it's just a scene, more it's just a phase, mom, I should say, of
Yeah.
not having, like, the same people around me.
Yeah.
So then I went to college in Western Mass, eventually, ended up on the North Shore, and getting into, just this area of local music, it kind of just, like, happened. The, like, one show that I really always think about is, it was at UMass Lowell. It
Mhm.
was, Wretched Inferno's, I'm pretty sure, first show, Wretched Inferno, Rose Gold Blindfold, Shortest Life, and I think I'm forgetting someone, but it was outside, like, on their, like, courtyard and stuff, and that, like, was truly, like, the jumping off point, and from there, it was just, like, whatever shows I could get to. Definitely have been to a lot of, like, bigger bands and, like, stuff of, like, the Palladium, all things of that,
Oh, cool.
for at least 5 years-ish now, but it's really just always been there, and I'd say with the local music scene since about, like, 2019, 2020 area.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I think um I have a crazy background in music. It's super weird. My mom's a singer. She sings at her local church. Um and I always grew up listening to Motown. So that's like literally what I grew up listening to was Motown. I didn't get into like music until I was and not even this type of music, but like a harder type of music until probably like sixth or seventh grade.
Yep,
Um, and so it's crazy. And then like I mean, it's just slowly, it just things just ended up getting. I listened to harder and harder and harder and harder music. Like it just kind of like a very, very, very slow snowball effect. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
I just yeah, and it's just crazy, but we didn't at least where I lived, we didn't have a lot of those types of shows, and I missed out on so much in Portland. I'm from Maine. I didn't actually say that, I don't think, but, um, I missed a lot of shows looking back in, like, the early 2000s, um Yeah, there were some great venues in Portland, and I missed out on so many good like, just hardcore metal shows.
That's how I
Um,
feel about out here, hearing about, like, everything, like, I got to go to the Bungalow, but, like, Anchors Up in Haverhill and, like, all those, like, not getting to experience and, like, just
yeah,
missing it because I was still, like, in New York, but still not, like, missing the scene, like, at the same time out there because, like, same thing, grew up, like, on country music because of my family and such,
right,
and
right.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And I don't even know where my taste for that music really, came from because I mean, everything I always listened to was always just vocal, like singing, like was the big backing behind that. So it's crazy to see. I mean, I still listen to everything. I mean, I have a bunch of records, my jazz record collections back there. Like I listen to a whole bunch of stuff, but um, it's cool to see like where people first started to get into heavy music. I mean, I think like my first, and it wasn't even that heavy of a show, but heavy show that I went to was it was in Portland. I saw, this is going to be super embarrassing. Um, I saw Nickelback, Saliva. Who else? It was Nickelback, Saliva.
I enjoy Nickelback, forget what anyone says.
Um,
I'm good, not no one's gonna like that.
when they're that's fine. I don't. That's totally fine. Yeah, I think that was like my first heavy, heavy show. Like, well, not heavy, heavy show, but like
But, like, of that,
of
yeah.
that, like starting to like push into that thing. But it was like, yeah, it was like, yeah, it was Nickelback, Saliva, and I can't remember the other bands. There's a couple other bands, but like that's when like I don't know, like the dad rocky stuff kind of got into my head, and then it was just like from there, I just started listening to more and more and more and more heavier stuff. Um, but like, I mean, I think the first bands that I got into were punk bands, like were
Yeah, same.
MXPX, NoFX, Mustard Plug. I listened to like a bunch of like punk bands, and then that like started pushing me down that, and then like I didn't know where a lot of the bigger shows were, so that first heavier show that I went to would have been that, and then um yeah, eventually after that I started finding like the smaller places to go to shows and seeing like a lot more bands that like, oh okay, these are the bands that I like these heavier bands, you know what I mean, and really started
Exactly,
pushing me in
finding
that
your
direction.
forte. Mhm,
Yeah, it's super super fun, but yeah, that's cool.
love that. So then going from that, what bands are most influential to you, and then what, bands do you think most influenced Death Jam?
Interesting. um Man, that influenced me, I don't even know if I can answer that question. There's just so many. There's so many. And it really changes during the seasons, it changes during, like, the
For
years,
the
like, yeah,
feelings, yeah.
it's super weird. Like, if I was to go okay, right now, if I'd say right now, the bands that are influencing me the most would have to be, like, Alpha Wolf. Um, they're huge in my book right now. Like, I'm listening
Same.
to so much of them. Just their tone, I love it. Um, Knocked Loose, um, End End is amazing. Um,
I've seen End, like, pop up and everything, but I have not listened to End, and I know that needs to change. Maddie
that
just took
that
some insane photos of them, but
yeah, I did. I just saw those. Yeah, End is Will Putney on guitar. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. You need to go listen to
Yeah,
End.
I need to go listen to them,
Um,
like,
yeah,
yesterday. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
like yesterday. Will Putney, yeah, Will Putney's the guitar player. Um,
Holy.
let's see who else. Throne.
Mhm. I enjoy Throne.
I'm huge into Throne right now.
Mhm.
Like, I like the really raw, like heavy, chunky, like kind of caveman riff type stuff. You know what I
Yep.
mean? That's the kind of stuff that's gets me excited about playing guitar. Um, So, like, yeah, influences like that for me would be them, I would say, um, which is all newer stuff. I mean, Unearth, if I have to go, like, even older, like, I love
Yep.
excuse me, I love Unearth. Unearth is amazing.
The loudest performance I've probably ever seen at Warped Tour.
Oh, I'm sure,
Holy
I'm
cow.
sure. Yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, I mean, Amure, huge. Um, I mean, there's so many, you know what I mean? Like,
It's
like,
never
if
ending.
yeah, it's never ending, but, like, right now, like, a lot of the bands are those, like, raw, like, just heavy chug type bands is, like, really what I'm influenced by the most right now. Um, and the crazy thing is too is, like, I listen to all this stuff, but, like, the way I write is nowhere near the same style, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I know a lot of people try to stay away from certain like, "Oh, I don't listen to the same genre of music I'm in because, like, it'll affect my writing." I'm like, "Okay, I guess." It
No.
doesn't for me, at least I mean, maybe it does. It probably
It
does.
can, absolutely, it can
Yeah,
affect the
it
process,
probably
but
does, but I like, to what extent, I'm not quite sure, you know? Like, I don't think it's like, because 'cause I'm, like, trying to think of some of the songs that I've written for Death's Hand, and, like, they don't remind me of anything, but, again, that could just be me making that assumption, and it's not
thinking
actually
no,
true.
because I know, like, certain people that can, like, uh, listen to a song and pick out, like, "Nope, that's this, and this of, like, this riff is from said song," and vice versa, so it's, like,
Yeah,
making sure you aren't doing that at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, yeah, but, like, I would say influences for Death's Hand, we try not to be influenced by anybody. We try I don't know if I don't know. I mean, like, there's no bands that we're like, "Oh, if you like us," or like, "We're similar to these bands." Like, I mean, I h some people say we sound like Amure because we have the whammies, which, like, I don't agree with at all, but, I mean, it's flattering, but I don't think we sound like them, you know? Um, but I mean, I would say that, um I'm trying to think of, like I don't know. I think that the biggest thing we try to emulate is just, like, trying to be ourselves as much as we possibly can. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, I would say, uh, I don't know how to put it. The only things we kind of look to do are things that are a little bit different for ourselves. Um, um, and I would say one of the things that we try to do each time when we play is just introduce some new things each time, right? So, like, our first EP was, like, kind of bland, not bland, but, like, kinda simple, like, we didn't add a lot of production stuff, it was just, like, the songs how they are, and then we kind of moved up from there, it was like, "Okay, we did this," and it's like, "Okay, next EP, we wanna add, our guitars, we want them to be slightly heavier because we want them to sound similar to this, and then we wanna add more synth and production stuff," which is, like, exactly what we did on this EP, right? So and it's not that like that we're like, "Oh, we heard this band and we wanna add synth because of this." It's just like the way Kyle, who's, the other guitar player in Death's Hand, he writes most of the songs, like, a very large majority of the songs, and a lot of the stuff that he writes is very, like, slow, chuggy riffs, so there's a lot of room for, you know, some intricate synth parts or some intricate guitar parts over the top, And so, for us, it's just one of those things where we just try to do us, and if it sounds like something similar, okay, you know what I mean? But we're not like, "Oh, well, this band writes like this, so we wanna write like this," or "This band has this in it, so we wanna sound like this." It's just like, we think whammies are cool, like, whammy guitar pedals are cool, so we have those in there. Like, we love synth stuff in music, so we just wanna have that in there, Like,
exactly.
so I would say, like, influence-wise, there isn't necessarily, like, specific bands, but, or, like, people or whatever, or producers or whatever that do certain things. It's just like we just pick the things that we like that we want to do and add it and hope it sounds a little different than somebody else. So it's just like that's kind of the only way I can really think about answering that question. But I guess that'll work.
Perfect.
um So, kind of in addition to the first question that I asked you, uh, what initially made you get into photography, and when did you decide to start taking like photos at shows, and how did that kind of all intermingle into each other? That's something that I would find interesting to know.
Absolutely. So I've always been intrigued in by photography. Like I had a little like Canon growing up and such and that, but for more concert photography, it was a lot Maddie. I was always seeing Maddie, Chrissy Men, always at shows, and it was a Deep Fear, Voluntary Victims, Bleach Temple, Weekender that Maddie was taking pictures at I think every day of that. And then following that, like her and I started talking more. That Weekender was in January. I then got my camera in June, and this was after being around shows for a really long time. Like I remember taking pictures and videos on my phone, thinking like this was it, and now I realize like
Right.
it was not. Like, I can specifically remember taking videos on my phone of Shape Thrower at a pub on Park in Rhode Island, and, like, thinking back, it's probably one of the most embarrassing things, like, I know, but it was cool because, um, Boomer, and Edict was, like, in Shape Thrower at that time, so, like, being able to see
Oh,
that.
that's cool.
But, yeah, then I really got into concert photography, last June is when I got my camera. I'd say more so getting into it, pretty much a year ago now, of doing, like, learning things and more so concert photography, but I was more so, I'll call Maddie the Jedi herself, and I was more so like her Padawan, like, learning things, like, along the way and such, until, like, we finally got to this point where we're both doing insane shows. Like, last month, I did Slipknot's 25-year,
Yeah.
anniversary, and she just did Killswitch Engage's 25-year
Yeah.
anniversary, like,
Yeah.
doing insane things, like, in our own regard, and, like, truly, like, where I started was, like, thankfully to her, and then, through her, I met our friend Hannah, who I mentioned before, and, like, the 2 of them are, like, 2 of the biggest people that I look up to, like, within shows and what I do.
That's super cool. Yeah, I mean, it's really cool to kind of watch um both you and Maddie like, you know, be able to go and do those shows, you know? Like, I mean, I know Maddie's been shooting bigger shows for a little while,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah,
I
for a
think,
little while.
Maddie's around, like, 5 years, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
with photography, and, like, I just hit a year, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
such, but no, like, the time does, like, play a role on it,
for sure.
but it's also, like, just knowing how to play your cards. Like, I, went to college for business and marketing, so I feel like I have a lot of things of that help, like, push me along and knowing, like,
Oh, for sure.
um excuse me, who to email and, like, things of that, like, for my growth, and that's how, like, I got myself into Fashion Week, got invited back, was able to take Maddie, and now both of us just got invited back to the spring, so it's just a matter of knowing, like, how to uphold yourself, like, is truly, like, how far you go regardless of a
Yeah.
year or 5, but we're both doing, like, such insane things.
Yeah, and that's super cool. I think that just kinda shows how much, time and effort you guys put in, right? I mean, I feel like that's kind of, and like you said, there's a couple things here and there, like, your business side or whatever that probably helps you a little bit to kind of like push you forward, and people can see that when you talk to them and stuff like that, that you can, put yourself forward in a good light and do that. And I mean, obviously, both of your guys' talents are visible in your photos, which is cool. So it's definitely yeah, it's definitely cool. And I think the one thing for me too, like, I mean, I used to take a decent amount of photos back in college, had some okay cameras at the time, a little bit dated, but okay cameras at the time. Um, but it's cool to be able to bounce, questions and stuff off of, you and Ian and Maddie. Those are the three that, I really kind of focus on. But it's cool because the way you kind of look at it is I mean, I would say that Ian's like fully top tier in pretty much everything that he does, and then like Maddie's that next, and then like you're that next. So like I'm way down here. So it's
It's funny because I
it's
don't even
cool.
like it's cool to even like hear myself like on that
Yep.
playing field and such, and it's
Yep.
like that's still something I have to remember, and like I humble myself a lot because I don't think like in comparison, yeah. But especially at my day job, I'm a school photographer, and even talking to like I'm a lead photographer, talking to my other photographers, like as soon as they're like, it's been a year, only been doing this like a year, like it makes me hopeful to think like I can't wait to see Angry Ginger at 3 years, 5 years, like,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth, if this is already, like, the jumping off point.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like um if you keep going at the the speed and the trajectory that you're going, like you're going to be fine. Every person has, especially when you're taking concert photos, like every person has a bad set. Like every person has, a section where they're just like, I am not getting what I need, right? Like I am
Mhm.
not shooting what I need. Things are not working. And then sometimes it kind of, you know, gets in the groove and you're like, okay, I've got it now. Like even,
Exactly.
and for me, I think at least definitely for me, um, is when I'm shooting stuff, it's definitely more frantic to get in that groove, right? Like for me, you know what I mean? Like I'm like yeah, everything's set up how it needs to be, and then I start taking photos. I'm like everything looks like shit.
It all looks
like,
bad.
like
Yeah,
this
no.
is not good. Why is it? And then I'm like trying to like figure
D
it out while I'm doing it, and I'm like I'm missing this. I'm doing, and then like eventually I'm just like
and then it's gone,
yay,
like,
yeah,
exactly.
and I'm like what the
Especially,
hell?
I noticed that with the shows I've been doing for Imprint because at the larger venues, you have first 3 songs, and it's like, if I'm figuring out what my camera specs are, like, half of, like, the song, if not the first song, and if it's only an intro, like, awful timing, and that's
Yeah,
basically what happened. I did Avril Lavigne last month, and I was prepared to be, like, at the pit and everything, and I showed up, and we were at the sound booth, and I had a 50 millimeter lens on, which does nothing for me, and thankfully, um, this photographer let me use his 7200, like, ready to go, like, just there, and it's like, thankfully, there's people like this that wanna
yeah,
support each other because I would have
that's
been, like,
crazy. Yeah, you would have been
screwed
screwed. You
otherwise.
would have been screwed. Yeah,
Absolutely, I would have been
yeah.
screwed.
You're just like okay, I'm just gonna take
That's
selfies
why my
right now.
pictures of girlfriends are because they're all on a 50 millimeter, but it's
Right,
fine.
right. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be pretty intimidating. I didn't even know it was first 3 songs. That's insane.
So that's what was wild about
Wow,
Slipknot is there were 13 photographers
that's crazy.
for the first 3 songs, and then as soon as we all finish, here comes Ian by himself, getting everything after.
That's so
'Cause that
cool.
was as soon as I was doing the, Rap-Load music video with him, that was, like, as once I got the introduction, I'm like, "Okay, I gotta ask." I'm like, I saw your photos, I saw everything you did, like, you were not fighting, like, 13 photographers like I were when I'm this small and I was the only female,
Right, right.
um, it's a difference, and he was like, "Yeah, no," but he explained it which is really cool, like, Slipknot, instead of having, like, photographer and everything, like, for it, like, they'll reach out to different people, like, in different areas, so Slipknot reached out to Ian, and
Yeah,
that, like, just, like, puts him at exactly, like, where he
yeah.
is, and, like, no one more deserving, like, nicest guy possible.
Yeah, he did the same thing. I went to see, it was In Flames, Gatecreeper, and Creeping Death in Portland. Um, and In Flames reached out to him and had him do the Portland show and the New Hampshire show. So he did both of those shows. Um, and so like what they did, at least how Ian explained it to me, because like I was there, I went to the show by myself, literally like went to went to the show by myself, showed up and I saw him and I was like, Ian, and he like comes over, gives me a big hug, and everyone's like, who the hell is this guy? Because like he's got his camera, and so everyone's like, he must be doing video. So I'm like, we're just chatting it up, and there's like a bunch of people around just staring at him, like, who is this guy? And I'm like, none of you would know who he is, and
Yeah,
that's fine.
it's fine.
Um, but I asked him, I'm like, "Oh, man, that's super cool, like, event like, you're doing this show?" And he's like, "No, they reached out to me to do both shows." I was like, "Holy shit." And so what they do, at least he explained to me, depending on where they are, they'll have, like, a certain person shoot, like, a couple set of shows. So if there's, like, 2 shows in a state, they'll usually have, like, 1 person shoot both of the shows. Um, but because the Portland one and the New Hampshire one were so close, they asked him, like they asked him to do the New Hampshire one, and they were like, um, "How far is the Portland one from you? Can you do the Portland one too?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'll do the Portland one too." And so, like, they hired him for both, which is really cool. So he didn't do the whole tour. It was just those 2 tour stops. Um, but yeah, he shot video for both of them. So, I mean, obviously it's the same
Insane.
thing. I wonder how they reach out. They must, like there must be some I don't know, someone who they ask or something, they type into Google or something and, like, people pop I don't know how they do that, but, like
Insane.
yeah, it's crazy. But it's really cool to kind of see that, you know? And yeah, I mean, it's I don't even wanna call it, like, a pecking order, but it's just cool to be able to, like, talk your way up to people from, him down to me, and just be like, "I'm a no one," you know, he does everything, so it's like it's cool to kind of walk yourself through the whole thing, and just, like, be able to ask, like, I can ask someone who's been shooting for a little over a year, I can ask someone who's been shooting for 5 years, I can ask and I don't even know how long Ian's been shooting.
But yeah, it's seeing everyone, like, at the different steps and everything, and such, and just, like, going back to just working all together.
Yeah, yeah, it's a blast. It's so much fun. So much fun. Um, yeah, so those are our questions. I think we're good on that regard.
Guess we just
Um,
keep going.
yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Um, yeah, so I guess next wanted to talk about a couple of local shows that are going to be happening this week and this upcoming weekend. Um, I don't know if you want to I know you had one that you were are you
Absolutely,
going to or
yeah, so, Angry Ginger will be at Workaholic, held by Warcock Entertainment, and it'll be Pathogenic, Bearing Point, Aegon, The Green Invaders, Iron Gate, Sunseeker, Soul Mirror, Rapblood, is that Siphon, and The Darkest Part of Me. It's at Cherry Street Station in Wallingford, Connecticut on Saturday, September 28th. Doors are at 3, shows at 3:30, and it is a $20 cover, 21 plus. See
that'll be
everyone
fun.
there.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah. And then I couldn't find anything in Portland. I don't know why, but just couldn't find anything in Portland. But there's another show happening September 28th in Lynn, Mass. It's gonna be let's see, Cannabis Crypt, Neighborhood Shit, which is a hilarious name. Eyes Pressed In, Gum Scab, Secret Work, Silent Spring, and In Contempt. And it's just says DM for address. There's no address.
Oh,
So it must
well,
be a house show, I would assume. But
that's about right.
yeah,
Or
it's
practice
gonna be
space.
a good show. Cannabis Crypt Boys are awesome. Ice Preston
Yes.
is awesome. Gum Scab's awesome. Secret Work is awesome. The other bands I don't know, but I'm sure it's gonna be a great show.
Awesome, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be an absolutely amazing show. And then one show I wanted to bring up too, it's not this weekend, but it's coming up that I'm gonna be going to is the Bane show in Portland. That was literally just announced today. That's gonna be insane. Um, it's Bane, Stick to Your Guns, Silent Drive, um, Infernal Diatribe, and was it Peacebreaker? Yeah, I think it's
That's
Peacebreaker.
insane.
That's gonna be a fun show. Haven't seen Bane. I really am excited to see Bane. That will be a lot of fun. That was Bane was actually the first like hardcore band I ever listened to. Like
Okay.
first. Like I remember I clearly remember listening to them and going, "Yeah, I don't like that." Like that was like my first
Yeah,
initial like I'm
yeah,
like, "Nope, yeah, no, I don't like
no,
that." And like
um,
but it was so early on into me listening to heavy music that like I couldn't. I'm like,
couldn't.
"Nope, nope, I don't wanna listen to it." And like
Mm,
I kinda like put it to the side. And then I
yeah, no, I
remember like clearly like eventually going like oh no, I was wrong. This is good. I'll listen to
This is
this.
actually,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
like
my first 3 were, Disturbed, 3 Days Grace, and Slipknot, so Slipknot was, like, more so that
yeah,
3rd, like, "Nah," and then one day it was just like, "Oh, yeah,"
yeah.
and then
It's
take pictures.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's funny where you'll get certain spots where you'll listen to bands and you're like initially you're like, no, that's not something I'm into, and then you revisit it and it's like, oh, okay, this actually makes sense. You know what I mean? Like
Everyone was not to lose.
yeah, yeah, like I get this. Like it's now finally clicking. Um, which is I think that's another really cool part about music is just like the cycle of stuff you go through, right? Like you have your nostalgic stuff you listen to back about,
Mhm,
you listen to it, forget about it for a little bit, listen to it again. Oh my God, these bring back memories. But I think it's also cool to listen to music, you don't like it, and then eventually you come back around to it and you're like, oh, I like this.
oh,
And then you actually have to go back and listen to their older catalog that you were like, oh, I wouldn't like this in the first place. And so it's just one of those things where um yeah, it's fun. That's why I love music so much. But
absolutely. I'm
it's a
just plugging in
blast.
my laptop, I didn't realize it was
It's dying.
yeah, that's what I get.
Yeah, right. That's funny.
If it dies.
It happens. Yeah, I mean, if it dies, you're gone.
It's the end of the podcast.
Just say, "Yep, exactly."
I think I got it.
I'll just finish it
I
myself.
got it. We're good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. So yeah, those are local shows that are coming up and that we're going to be going to, which is fun. And then I guess we're going to kind of get ready uh to wrap this up here. I know you have an announcement on who we're going to be doing a podcast with next, possibly. Is that
Yes, it'll be my friend Rob, Rob Muller of Groaning Gretch and Infinite Misery. We are both originally from Hudson Valley area and such, so wicked excited to have him on. He's now in Connecticut and hear what he has going on. He will be stepping away from Groaning Wretch, and still have Infinite Misery. So just to hear what's going on for him, for Groaning Wretch, and for Infinite Misery will be awesome.
cool? And since I have absolutely no idea about him at all, what kind of music is are both bands?
Death metal.
Okay, cool. I'll probably like that then. That'll be fine.
Absolutely.
I'll have to do a
I
little bit of
helped
research.
Groaning Wretch with a music video like a few years ago, and it
Oh,
was
cool.
like they're basically a puke band, so it was a lot of oatmeal with green dye and everything. Like it was great, fun times.
That's cool. That sounds like it'll be a blast. Cool. Cool. Yeah, so that's going to be what we're going to be doing up next. We're hoping to be doing a podcast every week. That's kind of where we're going. So release days when you see these are going to be Thursdays. That's going to be the day that we're going to be releasing stuff. Yeah, so that's kind of the plan. So we hope you guys are interested in this podcast. We're definitely going to be having a lot of really fun interviews, fun conversations, like I said, with musicians, photographers, videographers, all of that stuff. We're going to have a lot of really fun stuff. Hopefully in the works, getting some bigger names too here and there. That's kind of I think every podcaster's dream is to do that.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be doing that. But yeah, make sure you go and follow. I think we've been throwing some banners up here and there. Make sure you go follow Angry Ginger Photography if you haven't. Same thing with me, Advocate Media. Our Instagrams are up there, and Death's Hand as well, my band. And then I don't think I have an Angry Advocate podcast Instagram. We might have to get on that. So that might be one we have to create. So hopefully we'll have one created for the next one, and we'll have that all situated. But yeah, guys, really appreciate you watching this podcast. This 54 minutes worth. I'm surprised you went that long.
Me too.
I'm down though. It's good.
We can
It's
both
good.
talk. It's fine.
But yeah, guys, really appreciate you watching this. Hopefully you catch us in the next couple episodes that we're doing, and yeah, it should be a fun time, and hopefully we'll catch you all later. See ya.
Thanks, guys.
and laceration.